Okay, well, we have a couple more videos to go through here, but before I do that, I'm just going to bring on one of Chelsea's friends that has actually called in the other night. Let's bring her up. So we have Artemis here joining me again. How are you this evening? I don't know if she can hear me.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, you might want to just turn down your background.
Yeah, I think we were in the other room watching.
No problem.
So not sure, like the live and everything,
Sure.
if it's timed correctly. We might be a little bit behind because we might have been watching, but so
Nope,
far,
you're live.
as we've been watching, yeah, and we've been catching up on our little group chat that we have.
Yep.
Um, there's just been a lot of information from the mainstream media, and that's great. That's great news.
Right.
And then today I was able to actually contact Kelly Townsend, who's their private investigator,
Yep.
and he's wonderful.
Great.
I was able to kind of compile everything that we've been talking about in our
Yep.
group chat
Right.
and give him everything. I think you saw all of that. So
Yep.
that's great. And once we are able to release some of that information more publicly, we will do that.
Hmm.
Some of it may or may not have been talked about, but because I think they do have some leads that are of importance, we want to just make sure and respectfully and understandably, we want to make sure that we're not, alerting any possible suspects or anything like that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So I know, like we talked about, I don't know, 24 hours ago. I hope you're feeling a little bit better. I know you haven't been
yeah, getting
feeling
there.
well, and I appreciate you doing this. And I don't know if you heard at the very beginning of the podcast, is that I really appreciate you all reaching out to me and accepting me in that group. And again, I said that I haven't really been talking much in there. I've just been mostly observing. And I have to say, it's probably over a dozen people in that group, maybe a little bit more. I have to say, I can truly feel in my heart when I look at that chat, you all really care for Chelsea and want her to come home. And the super sleuth thing that's been going on there has been amazing. And
Yeah.
the slew of information has been fantastic. So I want to commend all of you in that chat. And again, just thank you for allowing me to be in there.
Yeah, thank you. I think adding you was a great ad. We had a couple more ads that, might have been more just linked to some of us.
Sure.
Not necessarily directly friends of Chelsea's, but people we thought would be beneficial to be in that group
Yeah.
chat.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that
And
was a great idea. Some of us were like, should we be inviting these people on? But it turned out to be a really good
yeah.
thing.
And, like, as I said, and as I said here, I personally don't know Chelsea. Obviously, I know 3 days of what I've been doing is streaming and reading about her and doing some, excuse me, and doing some research on her and kind of getting to know her through there. I can't speak for her. I can't speak to her as a friend, but my whole point was to just open my platform for you all to get information or to get her story out there. And I wanted to be the liaison between that and allow you all to do this. So that's kind of my sole purpose in doing all of this.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. And I did catch a little bit before I went on the StreamYard,
Mhm.
you just talking about, how you are not the mainstream media, of course, and they're going to kind of overshadow a
Mm.
little bit, unfortunately, the smaller channels and people, like you. And you are someone who, and I can vouch for that for anyone listening, you are someone who is connected to the people that know her.
Yeah.
And so if people do want, to listen to someone who isn't just, putting speculation out there,
Yeah.
then obviously your stream is a great place to go to.
Yeah. I
um
appreciate that.
yeah, and so as we go forward and we'll see what this PI has to say. He was texting back and forth with me tonight about a few things. I was
Mhm.
able to kind of drop a couple of
I've seen the
information.
screenshots, so if anybody,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we're not making this up. This is a legitimate thing. Like, I've
Yeah.
seen the screenshots, I'm seeing the documents they're putting together. So, it's not BS. So I know, like, a lot of people do this stuff for clicks and views. It's totally not
Right.
BS. I mean, I can literally do this. Hang on. I'm not gonna show the chat, but I can show, like, the chat. Like, here's our chat. So, I think
Yeah.
people can see that there's a
It's
chat
a lot
going
of
on.
people. I think at
A
this
lot of
point, it's
people,
more than like, it's definitely more than a dozen
but it's
people at
good.
this
Yeah,
point. We
yeah,
could
it's
have
probably
almost
20
have
or
like
so when I looked last.
20.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. So we spoke maybe 24 hours ago. How are you feeling now versus, 24 hours, 48 hours ago? Are you on a different path in this investigation, or feeling maybe a different way of what might have happened or what could have happened at this point?
I think there's a mix of a bunch of different emotions because we're all feeling a couple of things. I think I can speak for most of everybody in that
Sure.
group is that some of us are still feeling, and rightfully so, very frustrated.
Mm,
And then a lot of us now I think are feeling really just motivated. We're like,
yeah,
okay,
super
enough's enough.
motivated.
Let's figure this out. And I mean, I even said to someone tonight, I'm not sure if it was the PI or who I was talking to, like at one point I was like, should we go out there? Like
Yeah,
we feel, I'm on the East Coast. I've got twin babies and my
yeah.
life here, and I just was sick for 5 days. So it's hard for me to, and you don't want to step on the family's toes
Right,
either. So it's a
right.
little bit like, you know, but you want to do something, and you would hope to, if that it were you, or, you know, you know, someone would do this for you. So
Mhm.
you would want to do the same for them. And Chelsea, and our all of our experiences with Chelsea have kind of spanned over the last 15 plus years. And we all went to boarding school with her. Most of us did, at least. Some of them in the group are neighbors, some are
Yeah.
friends from, other walks of life. But
There's some
um
friends that live in Arizona, right in and around that area,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. So it's, like, but our bond that we created within our, I guess, our boarding school experience
Mhm.
mainly, like that was a unique experience. And, that's not something that we need to focus on right now, but that was a unique experience. And I think that is that's never going to fade away. I think all of us now coming together after so many years,
Yeah. I
we
it's
hope.
funny, I watched the chat and you're all like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, I haven't talked to you in a while. It's so good that you're in
Right.
here." And I think that, and I wanna put this out there, I think the great thing about what I've seen in there is, you know, I only have a certain level of sleuthing that I can get to connected into these social media platforms, but you all have direct connection into all of these people and direct connection with Chelsea, so you're able to look at things that may be private to me, on
Right.
her social media platforms, but you all can go in there and say, "Hey, did you see this?" Or you'll screen grab something and shoot a picture out. So I think that's been really fascinating to me, watching the chat.
Or
Um,
conversations like, text messages that she might have sent to some
right,
of us before she went missing,
right.
or anything like that. Like, we have all of that, and I shared all of that with the PI
Yep.
today. And that it's all in the right hands. And I think I didn't go on last night, but before, I might have mentioned in the live the first time I went on that I
Sure.
did talk to law enforcement, gave them
Okay.
pretty much the majority of the information that we've been talking about as
Mhm.
well. So, like, law enforcement should be on top of it. The PI now has all of our information. Um, and whether or not it's helpful or redundant, I don't know. It seemed to me that, he was eager to know what we were talking about, and the information, and asked a few questions, and was texting me throughout the night. So that's a good sign
That's a
in
good
my
sign.
mind, because yeah, it's like maybe we're getting somewhere and we can get answers
I don't
soon.
think
And
there yeah, I don't think there ever
we'll
can
see. I'm
be
just hoping that we wake up.
right. I don't think that there ever can be in this situation too much information, because you never know. The smallest thing may
Right.
lead to the biggest discovery, and I think it is good that
Right.
you're all, sharing and talking about the information. Let me ask you a question. Um, Tell me about how you met Chelsea and how long you've known her for.
So I met Chelsea, and with a majority of the people in our group had
Yep.
met Chelsea when we all went to boarding school together
Okay.
um years ago. Oh my gosh, I graduated I think in like 2008.
Okay.
Um, so that was the last 2 years of high school for me. Some of us, it was, different years, but it was a very specific experience. I'll kind of just leave it at that. And
Mhm.
that um, it was a boarding school up in Montana, and and that also is where she probably got a lot of her wilderness experience that our parents talk about.
Mhm.
Um, so I can just attest that Chelsea, at least as far as my knowledge, she's not like this avid camper or outdoorsy girl. She might have dabbled in it a little bit in recent years because she lives kind of now in that
Yeah.
she moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and and I've dabbled in it a little bit too, like in the last 15 years between the time we were at boarding school and the time we were, now I'm 33 years old.
You're so
So
old.
I know, I feel old. It's like high school feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
But last I spoke to Chelsea, it was about a year ago, and she had just gotten her license. And we're kind of in the same field. Like, I was going into equine therapy, and she was going to be a licensed counselor. And someone else that we knew from Monarch was also getting her license, that was very closely connected to her. And
Mhm.
we were kind of talking about that, and Chelsea was like, "Hey, if you need any help and you decide you want to go and get your license or do whatever, like, I can help." And I was really thankful to it, and we had a brief conversation. We have mutual friends in New York, in the area that she was living in, and she was like, "Next time you're coming through New York," and this was, I think, around COVID too, so, or maybe after COVID had happened, like 2021 maybe. And so, I whatever reason, we never met up, and then I think I deleted my old Instagram and then got a new one.
Mhm.
Um, and I was following her, and maybe a week or so ago, over a week ago, I think, I looked at one of our mutual friends, and they had a story that said she was missing, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I
Right.
immediately one of the people that was in her group that was at our boarding school, he is godfather to my twin babies, and we were just with them probably during the time that she went missing. It
That's so
was
weird.
Yeah, we were in New York on September 30th was the baptism.
Yep.
And
Congratulations,
uh
by the way.
thank you.
Yeah.
And it, it like, it's just so weird. It's like I immediately dropped everything I was doing. I was like, I've got to call my friend. And I was like, "Hey, did you hear that Chelsea's missing?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "No way. What the heck?" And I text message everyone I knew that knew her. And so we were just, ever since then, that was over a week ago. We've been frantically looking for clues and information. Um, some of us reached out to the family, including myself, and um, and now here we are.
Right.
And we're just hoping and praying that when we are able to all have a reunion together again, that we can include Chelsea in that. And you know, we're definitely, I think, preparing for the worst, but we're really hoping for the best, if that
Of
makes
course.
sense.
Yeah, I have some more questions about Chelsea, but I saw this question come up twice by Wheel B. So maybe with your
Sure.
notes and your collaboration, we can kind of put this in. And you might know a little bit better because again, you guys are all a lot closer to the situation than I am. So he's asking, I'm curious where Chelsea was on the 25th and the 26th after leaving on the 24th. Her first
Right.
connection to anyone that we know of was a girly friend in Phoenix on the 27th and being seen at a hotel in, I think it's Siegelman. I may have that wrong. But do we know any of her whereabouts where she was the 25th or the 26th?
Well, we do have that information, but I don't think that's something that's going to be publicly released yet.
Okay.
And that's the police are in contact with the girlfriend that she met up with. She met up with
Okay.
the girlfriend, and then she abruptly canceled on her the following day. And I don't I want to say that was maybe the 26th that she met
Okay.
up with her, and then it was the 27th that they were supposed to have lunch or something, and she
27th.
can't.
And then she canceled
Right.
the very much day next day on the 28th.
Right. but
Yeah.
I do know, like, through her sister that they do know who it was that she was meeting up with, and police have talked to that person.
Okay. So that's
Yeah,
all we can really put out there right now.
right,
And I do know that being in the group chat, there are things that we can talk about. There are things that we're not allowed to talk about because obviously law enforcement is involved and the private investigator is all involved as well. So,
right.
with sensitivity and respect to the situation, if Artemis feels a certain way or a certain thing that she cannot talk about, we're going to respect that tonight. So, that's where we'll go with that.
Yeah, I wish I could, only just to get information out there, not to speculate or gossip
Right.
or anything
'Cause this
like
is an
that.
ongoing investigation, right?
Exactly,
Right.
and, you just don't know who they're keeping tabs on, the private
Oh, no.
investigator or law enforcement, and you just
Right.
don't wanna scare them
Of
away,
course.
so,
Of course.
yeah.
And we're saying if this is a person, that's the thing, because I'm sure there probably are some
Yeah,
people of interest in this case right now. With privy to that, we just, we can't share that. We don't know at this point. So,
yeah.
um, so let me ask you: was Chelsea the type of person to be kind of this floating spirit? Would she ever? Did you ever know of a situation when you were just getting to know her? Growing up over the 15 years, that she would do something like this, kind of like take off, or kind of be a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? Adventurous in these types of situations.
I mean, I can kinda say that before boarding school, there was a lot in Chelsea's past, that, like, we can, look at mental health and
Sure.
all of that, and again, it's like, I don't wanna dive down the road of, like,
Right.
our boarding school again, but, I know that Chelsea wasn't a shy person, I'll put it that way, is that she was not just this reserved person. She definitely cared about her friends deeply.
Hmm.
And she seemed to be, at least in, the years post boarding school, that she wasn't afraid of adventure. I mean, heck, she moved from New York to California to get her license out there. And I know at the time she was dating a different guy that she moved to California with, and she ended up getting her license there. She got her education at NYU, and then
Hmm.
she got her license in California.
Yeah.
But I know that she's not. I don't want to say she's the type of person that, at least to my knowledge, people who were closer to her in the years, like, because people change, right? Like,
Of
just because of
course.
my experience of her, talking to her post boarding school and even during boarding school wouldn't necessarily mean that she didn't, change and she was the spontaneous type. But I know she did struggle with some things like that before boarding school, after boarding school, and she did have, according to what we know, all of us friends, is that she had some issues with drugs, and that's definitely something to note and something that we've been, wondering if that might have to do directly with her disappearance.
Right.
And it could, and it's either, like we discussed the other night, it's either this could be a drug related issue, this could be a mental health related issue easily,
Yeah.
or, again, is, the question of, it was this foul play. um and there was a point that we both all, like, kind of like, as a group, were like, there's no way that she, at least in our minds, that she went to a rehab, because her car was found with all of her belongings. um you would think that if she was really trying to, like, do something of, like, self-help, that she would have let one of us know. And she did let us know that in a text message, that she was going to, like, go on some spiritual trip of hers, like, almost like, trying to find herself again. No one really knew what that meant. Again, it feels like she was leaving breadcrumbs, but again, it could just be, um her in a state of confusion if she was coming down from a drug binge or something like that. So it kind of we kind of have to explore like all possibilities, either if it was drug related, mental health, or if this was unfortunately some kind of an abduction or foul play.
Yeah, there's a couple of scenarios that go through my head. Um, um, I see mental health. That's the
Yeah.
one that I'm leading really towards right now. I don't want to get too graphic, descriptive with it. Um, and the other scenario is this. Maybe she did get two flat tires out there, and someone came along and was like, "Hey, do you need a ride?" I mean, this would be the worst situation. Someone says, "Hey, you need a ride somewhere," and something happened.
Hmm.
She got into a car, just grabbed a bunch of stuff at the last minute, jumped in this car thinking that she's going to go to a gas station or police station or whatever to get help, and something happened. I mean, that's really the two scenarios that kind of hit me at this point. Um, but I lean more towards the mental health, and I think the thing that bothers me is her her travel of her path of travel. It's almost like, she starts out, she's heading east, then she turns around and goes west, and she goes back east again. She goes west, then she starts traveling north, almost like northwest, to go back towards home. It's just, to me, it seems confusion. Like she's spinning a circle. Like, should I go to Connecticut? Should I go back home? Should I go to Connecticut? Should I go back home? And then, obviously the body cam footage we see, she's upset. She's visually upset about something. Um, and I almost thought the officer interaction, she was kind of being dismissive a little bit, but she was trying to be really nice about it and not be rude or call any attention to herself. And that's kind of
Hmm.
what I got from it. And again, this is just my view. When I look at it, I'm not speaking for anybody, but that's kind of what I pick up on. And
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think also the not only the sporadic movement in her travels around the Arizona area, but what we were kind of connecting the dots is like her sporadic movement around the California area.
sure,
Um, what we think we're not sure, but like she left on the 24th, and then it took her till to get like almost 3 days, and then she had called her parents and said, "All right, I'm not going to be able to make it to the wedding. This was too much of a
right,
drive. I'm just going to kind of hang here in Arizona."
yeah,
And it was like, well, what was she doing for 3 days? And where was she for that amount of time when it should really only take her like, maximum with traffic 6 or 7 hours to get
right,
from OB to the places in Arizona she was trying to get to. It doesn't really add up. So we were wondering, was she trying to, go to LA, make a pit stop in LA, and then like go over to Arizona? It's really kind of hard because we don't have any exact. She wasn't really straightforward with any of her friends either. Like all of us that have the text messages from her, even during the time before she left, it was all very vague. And a lot of people got weird text messages and they're like, maybe they just wrote it off and thought, oh, it's
yeah,
just Chelsea being, because it was not in her character, but not really. It was both not in her character and in her character, which I
yeah,
don't know if that makes sense at all to you, but
yeah,
it was just
sure,
kind of like easy to write off. And that's what
right,
makes me feel so bad when these things happen, I think, is because, we're so caught up in our own lives that we don't stop to think, oh wait, is this odd? Is this weird?
right,
And that's happened to other personal friends of mine where I might have not talked to them for a while because I thought maybe they were acting a little funny, and then God forbid something bad happens to them later on down the road, and then you feel bad about it. But
of course.
um you just never know what's going on in somebody's life when you're not really paying that much attention.
Yeah, let me just take a quick pause here real quick, just because we're getting a lot more people coming in the room. If you're just joining us this evening, we're having a conversation with one of Chelsea Grimm's friends. She goes by the screen name Artemis, and really want to just welcome her, and thank her for coming on the panel. Her and I have been in some conversations for the last 48 hours. I'm in a verified chat group with about 20 of Chelsea's friends that have grown up or been close to Chelsea over the last 15 years or so. And it's been very nice that Armis would take this time and join us on the panel. I just want to make sure that we're just very, very respectful here in the LTL chat. This is a person that doesn't have to come on the panel, and she's lending her time to be here to get Chelsea's story out and tell us a little bit more about Chelsea and some of the investigating that they've done over the past 2 weeks here. So we want to make sure that we're respectful in the chat. I see other people in the chat. They're from some other streams that are fighting in here. If you're just going to do that, you can leave the chat, because we don't want that type of conversation in here. And, we're trying to be positive and productive here, because this is not about fighting on other streams. This is about Chelsea in this very moment. So I just wanted to take the time to do that and just let everybody know about that out there. So do you know the reason why she might have moved? It seemed like she was pretty much an East Coast girl pretty much her whole life. Was there anything that brought her out into the
Right.
California area? Do you know anything about that?
I'm not sure, but I would think that it might have had to do with her ex-boyfriend. I won't name his name. But I think he was a musician.
Sure.
Um, and I, I don't know if that was one of the reasons why. Also, we do have some mutual friends from our boarding school that a good chunk of them actually live in the California area. I
Mm,
have no idea if that is or isn't part of the reason why, but it could just be that it was them as a couple deciding to move to
sure.
California. I know they moved as a couple, um, and then they broke up a while back, and I know he's involved in the investigation. If anyone's listening and like
Mm,
wondering,
right.
he's very much cooperative with law enforcement, and
Good.
they don't suspect him at all.
Sure.
So, um, but yeah, I think that probably is why. And maybe just a change of scenery for both of them, because I think they met at NYU. I'm pretty sure,
Sure.
and then they decided they were gonna move back or move to California. Um, and I think he's currently living on the East Coast again. So
Got
she
it.
decided to stay in California.
Right.
And, you know, I think the rest of that story can kind of wait until further information comes out.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
spinning a little. I mean, people aren't dumb. They can look online. I mean, you can
yeah,
see some of the conversations that are going
it's
on
out
here.
there.
It's out there. It's spinning. We've
Yeah,
talked about some of it here. I'm not going to get too much in depth, because it's really not my business. But that's something for law enforcement and the private
right,
investigator to figure out at this point. So Avery has a question here, if you don't mind, and maybe we can
right.
give a little context. So she says, "Have there been any updates tonight on Chelsea? I know a PA. They may have updates." So maybe you actually probably could answer a little bit more than I could, because you're connected to the PI. So
Right. No, he is working really hard. I think this guy is the type of guy that works around the clock.
yeah,
He was very welcoming of me when I spoke to him on the phone earlier, and then he was like, "Yeah, just text message me, and here's my email." Sent him
that's
a
great.
pretty extensive document that I put together this morning, and he was really appreciative of that. But what he did let me know is that he is working on some stuff. So I
Good.
do think, I don't know for sure when, but information will be coming out. So he's kind of just crossing his T's and dotting his I's right
Sure.
now, and then he's having some conversation with key players in this
Right.
live conversation, and then we'll see what comes of it. And it's also up to the family what they decide they do or don't want to be released to the public at this time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the benefit of a PI, is that they don't have other cases like law enforcement have, so they can just solely take on a case and concentrate and focus on that, laser focused on it, and get to some answers quicker, and obviously work along with law enforcement to pass that information over as well too. So that's really great. Um Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy case.
Yeah.
It's just such a crazy case at this point, and, you know, the thing that just kinda startles me is that, learning about the search area that they've been in and around near Chelsea's car. I mean, I think there's been a 3-mile search radius, and they have found nothing. There's no clues, there's not a piece of clothing, a shoe, like, we haven't heard anything yet, so it's just really weird.
Right. It is really weird, and I think once we do get that information out to the public, and we're able to talk about it here on this live, things will get a little bit more interesting. And you'll be, in our chat, and you'll be getting updates in real time when we do know when that's going to be released. So,
Awesome.
um, you know, we'll kind of go from there. But I think I'm just praying that tomorrow we wake up and something pops off, and this PI was able to make a breakthrough tonight, because it sounded like he was working on it.
Wow.
So we'll see. Fingers
Wow,
crossed.
that's great.
Yeah.
So someone's asking, her Facebook page showed formerly living in Arizona, Desert Hills. Any connection there?
Um, I don't know. I don't have Facebook, so most of the friends in our group do. So
Mhm.
they might be able to sleuth that a little bit, but I
Yeah.
don't have her on Facebook because I don't have a Facebook, but I can look into that tonight.
Can I just show I wanna show you something that's I'm gonna bring it up on here on the screen that's kinda concerned me a little bit, and this
Yeah.
is something that I always think about, and actually, I think you and I have talked about the Circle K, and
Yeah.
that was very interesting, and I just wanna pull this up here. So there was a witness, or and again, we don't know 100 when someone puts a statement out there or says, "Hey, I may have saw someone that looked like her." Obviously, law enforcement's gonna act on those leads, but it could just be nothing at this point. But I thought this was interesting. So this person I found in a Facebook group on the Coconino actually sheriff's uh, posting. You can go on there and see this, but they wanted to say, I don't know if anyone reported seeing her with a guy in an older Camry that was grayish to sandish color, but I seen that car at Circle K near Prescott Airport on the 2nd. A female was holding a bearded dragon on her chest, and that's why I talked about earlier in the police video. It seemed that she had the dragon on her chest because the cop, oh, I didn't even see it there. And she kind of looked down to her right shoulder, which would be to the window, and kind of looked at the bearded dragon. And it says a female was holding a bearded dragon on her chest. Besides the bearded dragon, I have no other indication it was her. She didn't seem to be in distress, though, as the male driver went inside and left her alone um, for about 10 minutes. So I saw that. And then I saw this post on Facebook, which was interesting. That's in the Coconino Sheriff's Department. It says here from this lady named Judith. She says, I also seen a gray vehicle, which kind of prompted my ears because of this Camry was supposedly gray, with a woman with red hair and purple shirt, blue jeans, parked off where the canyon are, back on the back road from Williams to Drake on October 1st around 4 p.m. So I find that very interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, I know that one of our friends in our group chat that we're in did talk to the Circle K person,
Sure.
in a direct message
Oh,
today.
okay.
Yeah, I totally forgot to share that, or we were just kind of side chatting about it a little bit
Yeah.
right
And
before all
again,
of
I
this.
didn't wanna come out. I asked you something earlier, "Hey, can I share this stuff?" And,
Yeah.
you were like, "Let's just hold off." And I was like, "Okay," because I didn't like I said, you're closer to Chelsea than I will ever be. I don't know her, and I don't wanna put any information out. That's why I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're able to do this. And I just said, "You know what? I'm gonna hold back." Um and just let you come on and talk. But I'm sorry to cut you off. You were talking about
No,
the
all good.
Circle K. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
but I definitely appreciate it, because it's also me, like, not wanting to personally. It's like I wish I could talk about whatever in
Sure.
this case too, but I also am respectful, and I want to find Chelsea. So it's like
Right.
if we could potentially, like, scare somebody off or tip something that's going to lead people in the wrong
Right.
direction, then we don't want to do that. So because this is out to the public. This is not just in our little private group chat
No,
where we can say
we're
whatever
very
we
public
want.
right now.
Right. Exactly. So, but no, but yeah, a friend, I can kind of link that to you later tonight.
Oh, great.
She'll probably share that too. She's probably listening, but the conversation she had, it basically turned out to be that he's just saying the same thing over and over again. Like didn't really
Hmm,
elaborate as far as I know.
got it.
I haven't checked because I think like it was like maybe 20 minutes before I hopped on this stream that I
Sure.
had that conversation with her. But as far as I know, like that could be a very well a possible lead, and the PI has that information as well.
Hmm.
So like we'll see if that's accurate, because that area is definitely a hot spot where they're
Ah,
looking.
ah, okay.
That Prescott area. So I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I mean, I think we want to focus on, you know, the Arizona area, but I think at this point it's been so long, we'll see what, the PI has to say, and the news report has to say when they do release things out to the public. But if this extends further than Arizona at this point, that's very possible.
Hmm.
So, we still want people to be looking in that isolated area because that's where her car was found. But, I think that um, it is possible at this point. If she did hitch a ride, it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, she could be anywhere at this point. Um, so yeah, we're just hoping that this is something like, if it is mental health and she just doesn't want to be found, and she, or went on a retreat or went to a drug rehab, that's very possible. We just don't know for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
let's just, I guess, quarterback this. Let's say, from what we're understanding and what I'm understanding, and I'll say this because I can, you again, everybody can start figuring some things out here because we have the internet and we can look into things and we can see certain connections. We don't have all of the transparency like her friends would have that can get deeper into social media, but let's just quarterback this. Let's say she's having some trouble out in San Diego. She wanted to take this ride to maybe think about clearing her mind and maybe possibly turning her life around. She gets out into Arizona and starts contemplating some things, and then in the sense of, maybe wanting to change her life or clean her life up in a certain way, maybe rid herself of some things in her life. And people do this. They just check themselves in somewhere and say, I don't want to be found.
yeah,
Like I want to just go away for 30 days. That could be a possibility here. I mean, Arizona has many, many retreats that you can go to. And maybe she felt refuge out there, in the wilderness or in this area. We know she's been familiar with this area in and around there. Sedona's right there. It's beautiful. They probably have tons of refuges. Sometimes people do this, and maybe that will be the best
right.
case scenario in this. And she wanted to make it look like, hey, I've just kind of disappeared, and
Yeah.
30 days later she pops up, and that could be a possibility.
Yeah, who knows? Like maybe the flat tires, like she did get a flat, like legitimately got flat tires,
Sure,
and she got a ride to where she was going, which was a retreat. And
sure.
that's why the radio silence.
Mhm.
You know, sh Who knows? But she did go on a retreat to Arizona. I think it was a year ago. Like
Interesting.
I don't know if it was this time last year. We can touch more on that in the group chat, but I know
Sure.
that she did go on some kind of, like, I think it was like a self, I don't know if it was a self-help thing or what it was exactly, but it was definitely in Arizona.
Hmm.
So her doing some kind of a retreat, um whether it was just like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a drug rehab retreat, but just a meditative cleansing of the
Right.
spirit, that seemed like that would be more in like Chelsea's character from what we all
Right. Um,
know, I
I know
think.
there's a question in here
And
asked
some
about
people,
medication. Yeah. I was going to say, I know there was a question here asked about medication. We're not going to get into that. That's very personal stuff. One, that's not my
Yeah.
business, and two, that's not the public's business because we have HIPAA laws, just like Bella was saying. So we're not going to talk about that. So
Right.
Sandy's asking, would she put her parents through that? Any credit card activity? So her credit card activity stopped in and around, I believe, what, the 28th or 29th, correct?
Yeah, I wanna say I think that it was around the time her phone,
Shut
wasn't
off.
pinging
Right.
anymore. Yeah, because I think they did have the information for, like, the Find My iPhone that one of the
Yeah.
neighbors did, and, they tried that. They tried to ping, but it had been too long. Um, so that means it was just off for too long by the time they tried.
Hmm.
Um, and there was some weird stuff going on with the iCloud information and all of that, but,
Interesting.
yeah, that all is odd. And so you would think that, if someone's not making payments, right? Like they're not using their debit card or any, like, did she have cash somewhere? Did
Right.
she take out cash? Like, you know, using a debit or credit card isn't the only way to, pay for things, but you'd have to have a cell phone or a credit or debit card or cash
Hmm.
these days. So, I don't yeah, um, we don't know. Something again, I'm sure the PI is looking into that
Yeah.
and looking into, who she talked to last. They can subpoena all of that. They can subpoena the phone records and find who her last text message was sent to. That could be raising some eyebrows and putting them more in the, camp of looking at some of these leads they're looking at. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. I think you're right. I think you're right that, this could be either a mental health crisis. She could be out of rehab and just doesn't want to be found,
Hmm.
or this could be something where someone did something a little bit more sinister,
Right.
or even if it was an accident and that person freaked out and, again, like we're speculating
Sure.
obviously, but if that were the case, then um that could be another possibility. That happens a lot as well. So,
So I had a text question come in from one of my viewers, and they asked me if the FBI is involved. Not that I know of at this point. And I don't know if Artemis knows this. I know that the Coconino Sheriff's Department is involved. They have the private investigator that's involved. But as far as the FBI, um, I don't know anything about that. And then I just want to answer this question really quick from Wheels. Wheels is asking about, do we know if they fully investigated the CCTV at the Loves? I would think they have, because the only reason I would say that is that's something that's talked about in the video, in the 9 minute body cam video. So I'm sure that they've gone there, they've pulled CCTV video from there. Um, I'm sure they've scoured the area in and around that 3 mile radius to where any of those gas stations would be. So I'm sure if law enforcement has done that, I guarantee the PI has asked about it. So I
yeah,
think.
I can vouch for that. The PI did message me about that today,
Okay.
so he's on top of that. So,
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things he was working on. So,
Right. Good. Good to know. Um, I don't know. I mean, anything else that you want to add or share? Um, um, it's been a very interesting conversation. It's been very
yeah, I
eye-opening
feel
for me.
limited, so I'm like
Of course.
thinking about what I'm gonna say
Right.
before I
Right.
say it, like names and stuff. But
Right.
uh, I think it was a great conversation.
Mhm.
Definitely can get some people's wheels turning out there. And obviously, if anyone listening has any information, please call it into the Coconino County Sheriff's Department. That's the best. That's your best bet to tip. Um, and then hopefully we can reconvene in a day or two and have another conversation, and hopefully by then they'll have released some of this information we're talking about.
Of course. Do you have a couple more minutes to hang out?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And then I think I'll probably have to relieve my other half because he's juggling the two twin babies right
Okay.
now.
Why don't we do this? I'm gonna let you go. I don't want to hold you off from the babies.
No
Um,
worries.
but I listen. I want to thank you for your time. I hope that we can reconvene. I have a important stream coming up tomorrow night. I may take a day off or two, let this settle a little bit. And then, if you have anything that's new, let me know in the chat. We'll fire up a stream, and anything that you can release that's you're able to talk about, of course, vetted through the parents, and we just want to be sensitive in that nature as well. And maybe we have some new tips that come in through law enforcement.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds like a plan, and we can definitely chat in the group tonight.
Yep.
Thank you again for everything you're doing. I know you're a small channel, and I hope this, boosts your likes a little bit and gets attention. Because for Chelsea and um, you are doing some very honest, integrative work. So I thank you for that and applaud you for that. And we'll definitely be in touch these next couple days.
Yeah. The thing is, and really quick, the thing is here is that I know people get very hesitant to go on these true crime podcast channels, because I notice in about 90% of them, maybe 95%, what they do is they interject a lot of speculation or a lot of bad information. And obviously, we know this is for clicks and views. I mean, I know the channels that do it. It's pretty disgusting. And I've said this all along. My channel is here to help and support. Um, I want to open my platform up for stories like this, for a platform that people come to feel safe about, and just let them talk, like just get the information out there. I don't care about a subscriber. I don't care about a like. All I want to do is get as many views on this video for people to listen, and maybe they were in and around that area or know where Chelsea is and can help, and that was my sole purpose of doing this, to really connect with all of you, and be able to allow me to open my platform to you. And I want to just let you know, you are doing something. You are all doing something that's, behind the scenes and involved in this. So don't think that you're not, and don't discount yourself, because I think you all in that chat are doing an amazing job. And for someone to be private and come on a panel like this and open themselves up and talk about stuff, it's a lot of bravery to do that. So I commend you for doing this, and I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, thank you. And we're we're Team Chelsea for sure. You
Yeah,
can.
absolutely. A lot of and they'll probably start doing it now. We've been having my chat post a lot of yellow hearts in the chat, in support for Chelsea. So,
Oh,
that's what
that's
we want to do
amazing.
here. So,
Thank you guys.
yeah, they come in and they start posting the yellow hearts, and they're probably going to be flying here in a second. So, but I really do appreciate it. I'll let you get to your twins. Let's reconvene, and of course we'll talk in chat and be in connection.
Perfect. Will do. Have a great night, everybody, and
All right.
thank you again.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. All right. That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Artemis, for opening up yourself. Thank you for telling us about Chelsea and sharing some information with us about her, and sharing the information that you and your friends have been sleuthing behind the scenes. Truly amazing what a community of people can get together and do. And again, I don't have a personal connection to Chelsea, but I'm learning a lot about her, and I can say this, that there are a lot of people behind the scenes that really care for her and want to see her come home, and see her come home safe. And we truly believe that we're going to do that. We're gonna be able to bring her home, and just keep shedding some light on this case.